it seems like a pretty fun rally. Like, and this is pretty big by Pittsburgh standards, wouldn't you say?
I would definitely say, yeah, these folks look really dangerous behind us, don't they? This is the uh, the preposterousness of the accusations thrown at people who come to these things is, if it wasn't so serious and dangerous, it would be funny. And I thought it was just important to kind of come and represent, and sometimes it's just nice to be in a collective, like-minded group.
Also, speaking about the crowd, the one thing I noticed is it's a much older crowd.
It is. It is. I think that maybe if you head over to the one on the north side at 2 o'clock, that'll probably skew a little younger. Sometimes it just depends on who's organizing and things like that. But last I checked, as long as you're over 18, you can vote. So I don't care how old you are.
Yeah.
My mom's 88, and if she were a little steadier on her feet, I would have brought. She wanted to come, but it was a little too much for her. So that doesn't bother me.
Well, it also just seems like there's a sense, particularly among my parents. Or I talk with Tony Buba and these people. They're like, "Oh, are we going to see the end of this fight? Are we going to see the arc bend?" Because that's I think what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people like the Tony Bubas in the world who have dedicated their lives to trying to make this country, this world, a better place, and it hasn't gone so well recently. So I think they're recognizing that this is a time to, I don't know, draw your line in the sand, but you just have to show up, and just keep showing up. And the greater the numbers, the more attention that's put on what's gone wrong under this administration, and that's where the power comes in. I think, Mike, a lot of people will say, well, what does this do, right? What impact does it have? One, I think it's energizing, but two, I think it shines a light on just how many people are disgusted with what's going on. Now, we have to turn this into change at the ballot box on election day. We'll see if we can do that, but I think that's the logical next step.
And what do you think? I mean, I also think these protests are pretty interesting in that it's a bunch of different groups.
Sure, I didn't even look to see who, you mean the organizer? I mean, Indivisible is the main one here. I think we have to build as large a coalition as humanly possible. And I think there's work to be done on that front to make sure that everyone is welcome. We don't all have to agree on every single thing. We do need to save democracy. And that, I'm not saying you put those things aside. I think that if there's something that drove you to come here, even if you and I may disagree on that thing, that got you here. And if your feet are on the ground here, then that's a really good starting spot. And I hope we can kind of build from there.
Well, speaking of disagreement and the big broad tent, this week City Council voted to roll back inclusionary zoning.
They did.
And some of those folks who were on that vote are here.
Sure. Yeah, and there will be a time to have spirited debate about that with some of those people. One of them is my council person, and I'm not happy about that at all. But right now, that's bigger than this. I'm glad that they're here.
We need a big tent.
I'm right, and I'm not forgiving it. I'm not putting that aside. I think that's a different issue for a different day. We don't have to legislate. I think we can get into trouble here with people who on this side of history, the right side of history, where you feel like you have to litigate every single thing. And I think the danger comes is that you spend so much time pointing at the person you should be shoulder to shoulder with, what's wrong with their view on that one thing, as opposed to finding the common ground. And we need to keep finding common ground like this.
Yeah, and let me ask you another question. What's your shirt about?
So I got chicken burrito on it, but so Bend the Arc is a national Jewish community organizing, and one of their pillars that they're working on is immigration. So we've done a lot of work in those spaces. Obviously, we've seen, whoever's going to be seeing this knows what's happening in terms of the turn that immigration policy has taken. And for us, we very much believe in the idea that for all of us to be free, each person has to be free. So it's a collective liberation kind of thing. And we've worked very closely with Casa San Jose here to do things on the ground. So to me, all my people were immigrants once too.
Yeah.
Just because I have the privilege of, being a white man, when we first came over, it wasn't that way. So I think we have to remember that, and I don't think enough people in my community do that, but for me, this is a very important tenet.
And that's important. I mean, you used to live right down the street from Tree of Life,
Yeah.
where 11 Jews were killed in the largest Jewish massacre in American history.
Yes.
And people were raised from that the shooter said he was motivated by the fact that, Dor Hadash, which was one of the...
It was a refugee Shabbat. Yeah, yeah.
There was a refugee kebab, and that, they were bringing in the caravans and whatnot.
Right.
And that gets forgotten sometimes.
Oh, sure, because, yes, it was a horrific anti-Semitic attack. But what was underneath that is the thing that you're saying that is forgotten. I think that's a lot of why I like
the race traders.
I like the great replacement theory kind of things. We're bringing in these people. I mean, the Jews shall not replace us in Charlottesville. All of that lies underneath the motives of the shooter there. And this is not diminishing the fact that there were Jews at worship and that piece of it. But I think you have to look at it in its totality. And that, I mean, another reason why I like wearing this shirt, especially around Squirrel Hill, it's to remind people that this is important. And the only way forward is to remember things like that and continue to work on these issues that aren't just about our little shtetl, our little sliver of land in Squirrel Hill.
Yeah, and I think, circling back to your point, it makes me think of, because, there's a lot of divisions in the Jewish community, the broader issue of having a united anti-fascist front. Because if you look at, Germany, you look at other things, the Social Democrats and the Communists all split and went after one another.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to go down that, very accessible rabbit hole about what could happen.
Yeah.
But we know what happens in history, right? They come for everybody. And it doesn't matter that you had this stance on this issue, so that's, I think it's another big reason to come to something like this, even if you don't see, well, what's the immediate impact going to be?